Hey y'all, I hope y'all had a very blessed Thanksgiving week. I know mine was pretty uneventful. And then yesterday, now of course you got Black Friday, which I think they were having Black Friday sales all week last week. And then um, on into the weekend. And then was it yesterday was or 2 days ago was Cyber Monday. And then I think they're still having Cyber Monday sales going on for the rest of the week. I might have to check those out. I'm not really into the Black Friday sales and stuff. I'm not into getting into those crowds. And around here in Pearland, it gets pretty crowded. Um, and then Monday, I went and got my husband's truck maintenance. I got his oil changed and his tires rotated. And then I need to look at getting new tires for my truck, but I also got to get a new windshield for it because my husband was driving down the Beltway and a rock hit the truck, or actually, it was back when I was working. Rock hit the windshield from all the construction going on the Beltway. And by the time I went to get, by the time lunch came around for me to be able to go and get it fixed before it started spidering out, it had already spidered out. And of course, it was a pretty hot day that day when it happened. So, anyways, other than that, not a whole lot going on this week. Nothing really interesting. So let's dive into our Bible study. So this week, I have Genesis chapter 4, and this is where Cain murders Abel. But there is a lot more that's going on other than Cain murdering Abel. Because here you see where Adam and Eve's children, they have their careers, which the two that are mentioned, you see that they have their careers. They had other children. They're just not named. And if you've ever noticed that, and this is something that I've kind of noticed, that the people that of importance, the where God is like making a point, is the people that are named usually in the Bible. Like the reason why they name certain people after the flood is because those are the lines that you can actually trace Jesus to, from the Old Testament. So when and the only reason he mentions and I feel that the reason he only mentions Cain and Abel in this one in chapter 4, and then later on he'll mention Seth, uh, is because this would be the first human murder in the Bible. And then, of course, you start seeing God, a trend going on with God. So you have the people who sin against him and do wrong, but yet he still takes us into his arms and tries to do right by us, but at the same time, he disciplines us. Especially in the Old Testament. The Old Testament, that there's been a lot of saying about how God is a vengeful God in, I don't want to say vengeful, I want to say more disciplinary God in the Old Testament, and then in the New Testament he's a more loving God. Well, to me, the reason why he's more stringent in the Old Testament is because he's trying to guide us into his direction, but we're just not listening. So he has to discipline us, like a father would discipline a child who's getting out of line. Anyways, that's the way I see it. And then in the New Testament, you have him physically coming to earth as Jesus and teaching us the way to him through Jesus. So that's the way I understand it. So anyways, getting into Genesis chapter 4, I'm going to read Genesis chapter 4 1 through 15. I'll read my notes and then I'll pick back up on Genesis chapter 16 through 24. Read my notes and then I'll pick back up at Genesis 25 and 26. So with that being said, let's get this show on the road. Just chapter 4, verse 1. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. But in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat. And the Lord respected Abel for his offering, but he did not respect Cain in his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at your door, and its desires for you, but you should rule over it. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel and his brother and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? He said, I do not know. Why am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you will be on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth, and it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. So, with Cain and Abel, you see this ultimate sibling rivalry, especially when it gets down to the Lord, their offerings to the Lord. So I'm going to pick up on my notes here, and then we'll get back into that. I'm kind of all over the place, and I apologize for that. Genesis 4:1. Adam and Eve begin to fulfill God's original command, be fruitful and multiply. Genesis 1:28. Eve now becomes the life giver. Eve knew that their child was more than the result of her and Adam's love. The child came into being from God. Cain's name suggests a Hebrew word play, Cain, Qayn, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Came from the verb have acquired, Conti, Qaniti. Again, I do not know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Genesis 4:2, Abel, meaning breath. The term is used elsewhere in the Old Testament to refer to which passes away quickly and unsubstantial. Psalm 62:9, Ecclesiastes 1:2. Genesis chapter 4:3-4. Cain's sacrifice marks the first mention of an offering to the Lord in the Bible. The Hebrew term used here suggests a free will gift given to any authority. Judges 13:19. Abel also brought a sacrifice to the Lord with key differences from Cain's offering. So here you go. So with Adam and Eve bore their children, so they were fulfilling the command to be fruitful and multiply. But then you start seeing the two boys having different occupations, in which most siblings, I know me and my siblings, we're all in the, we all used to be in the oil industry. Well, now I'm a writer, and I do YouTube videos and a couple other things, and then I guess an entrepreneur, if you will. And then my sister, she just went back to work from being an entrepreneur to and working for herself to being a lab technician. And my brother, he was an iron worker, and now he's trying to get into crane operating. So we all have different jobs, but they all kind of relate to the oil industry, or the chemical industry. Anyways, so here you have Cain, who's a tiller of the ground, basically a farmer, and then you have Abel, who's basically a rancher because he messes with the animals, or he keeps the animals. He makes sure, from making sure that they're healthy, and whereas Cain is supposed to make sure the crops are healthy and growing and stuff like that. But then the way I've read it and the way I understand it is that Abel put everything that he had into making sure that he had the best animals. And then when he gave the offering to God, that he gave from those animals the firstborns, but not just any of the firstborns, the really good fatty firstborns, the healthy, really healthy firstborns. But he was ensuring that he had really healthy firstborns because of the way he tended to his animals. And then you have Cain, and again, the way I'm understanding it and the way I've read it, and the way it was explained to me is that Cain, he tilled the ground, he planted the seeds, he grew the crops, but he didn't like fertilize them and make sure they were the best crops that you could grow. He just kind of did his job half-heartedly, whereas Cain put everything he had into his job. So when it came time for the offering, Cain just picked up whatever he had and threw it on the offering thing, and then Abel, he took the best of his animals and gave it to God for an offering. And that's where the two differences come in. My notes, I think I start off some notes. Cain's offering, Cain being a farmer, brought fruits of his labor. Abel's offering, Abel being a herdsman, a shepherd, brought the firstborn, finest of the flock. So again, Cain's offering, he just kind of threw whatever he grew on there, not making sure it was the finest of his fruits, not making sure it was the ripest, the prettiest apple or orange or wheat, barley, corn, whatever you want to, whatever it was. And then you have Abel putting the finest lamb or goat or kid, I guess they're called, baby goat, kids, calves, what have you, whatever animal he was tending to, he put the finest of the first, the best of the best of his flock or herd, so to speak. Anyways, 4:5, the first offering, vegetation given to God, was also the first rejected by God. Even though vegetation offering were authorized in the law of Moses, this is the laws that Moses gave the Israelites after they left Egypt, or when God used Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. It was not the reason why God did not respect Cain's offering. Again, it goes back to that. From the way I was understanding it and the way it was explained to me, was that Cain's offering was kind of and then Abel's offering was like the best of the best. Cain's offering is suggested as not the finest of his crops. It is also suggested that Cain did not put forth any effort into growing the finest crops. Again, this is the way I was reading it, and this is the way it was explained to me. Abel, on the other hand, worked hard to produce the finest and fattiest animals and offered only the best of his firstborn animals. Cain's angry reaction suggests his offering was rejected because of sin in his heart. not the nature of his offering. I think it may have had a little bit of both. Cain would have rather gone off and done whatever he was doing versus making sure that he had the finest of his crops. Verses 6 through 7, God asked Cain 3 questions that to me suggest that Cain did not offer the best of his crop or did his best to grow the finest crops. Why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen? And if you do well, will you not be accepted? Question number 3 is the one that got me to thinking that maybe Cain didn't put forth his best effort into growing the best crops. And then he was, instead of going, okay, well maybe I should do better the next time, he was angry at God because Cain didn't do his best, but yet he was angry at God for not accepting his offering. The Bible makes it clear that Cain's offering was rejected because of his wicked lifestyle. 1 John 3:12. The animal-like description of his sin as lying is reused in Genesis 49:9 to describe a lion crouching. The parallel use of desire in this verse and verses chapter 3 verse 16 suggests that sin wishes to be as intimate with humanity as husbands and wives. The only way to avoid this is to be its master, not its companion. Verse 8 suggesting Cain premeditated killing his brother Abel. Cain waited until they were in the field and killed Abel where there were no witnesses. This was the first human death, realizing the curse of human death pronounced against Adam, Genesis 2:17 and Genesis 3:19. Verse 9, God's use of questions with sinners continues here in Genesis 6, Genesis 3:9 through 13, by claiming he did not know where his brother was. Cain added lying to his sin of murder. God made Adam a keeper, Hebrew shamar. In the Garden of Eden, Genesis 2:15, Cain now asked if he was to be his brother's keeper. The answer is absolutely yes. We are to be our brother's keepers. We are to look out for our fellow humans. And as Christians, we are to be fishers of men, like the apostles, Peter and all them, to see that they are brought over to, or not over to, we're to lead them to God or Christ, because Christ is the only way to God. So, and yes, absolutely, we are to look out for each other. We are to, my mom used to say that it takes a village. So, yeah, absolutely. Yes, we are our brother's sister's keeper. Leviticus 19:18, Matthew 22:39, and Galatians 5:14. Verse 10, unlike Adam, Cain never confessed his guilt. Even though Abel never spoke, his blood now cried out from the ground to God. Verse 11, God's judgment on Cain parallels the curse placed on the snake, Genesis 3:14. They were both liars and murderers, John 8:44. The snake lied to Eve and kills man spiritually. And then Cain lied to God, and then he physically killed Abel. The curse against a murderer is repeated in the law of Moses, 10 Commandments, Deuteronomy 27:24. I say that I wrote down 10 Commandments in my notes, but technically there was I think over 300 different laws that Moses gave to the Israelites, not just the 10 Commandments. because it covered everything, every aspect of life for the Israelites. For the law of Moses covered every aspect of life for the Israelites. Anyways, verse 12, because Cain never confessed, God took away his livelihood, made him a fugitive and a vagabond. Vagabond meaning a wanderer or a bum. So in verse 13, instead of showing any kind of remorse or sympathy, oh, not sympathy, but any kind of remorse, I would go more remorse. He wasn't, what's the word? The only word that's coming up is remorseful, so we're going to go with that. He was angry. He was angry at God because God was punishing him for killing his brother. And then he still doesn't admit what he does. Instead, he's like, okay, so you're going to do all this stuff, but he was more worried about his own life. Go figure that. Verse 14, just as Adam was driven from Eden, Hebrew word garash, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Cain noted God was driving him out from the surface of the soil, since he would be hidden from God's protective presence. He feared that other descendants of Adam and Eve, rest of his family, Genesis 5:4, would kill him to avenge Abel. So instead of going, oh, I'm sorry, God, I did kill my brother, and I am repentant of that. He gets angry at God, and then he's like, okay, so you're going to take away my job, you're going to make me a vagabond and a fugitive, but what about all these people who are going to probably kill me because of what I did? Out of revenge. So, or excuse me, not of what I did, but what about all these people who are going to kill me to avenge my brother? So that was his main focus. He was more worried about his own life versus what he did to his own brother. Kind of twisted, if you ask me. But verse 15, true to God's compassionate and forgiving nature. This is a pattern we're going to see throughout the Bible. Exodus 34, 6 through 7, especially the Old Testament. You're going to see his compassionate and forgiving nature throughout the Old Testament. And again, a lot of people are like, oh, God's so mean in the Old Testament, but then he's a loving God in the New Testament. Well, you may think he's mean. Well, we thought our daddies were mean when they were disciplining us, or our moms in my case. So God makes provisions to protect Cain despite his sin. Whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him, and this would be the mark of Cain. Okay, pick it up in verse 16, the family of Cain. In the Old Testament, you're going to see a lot of genealogy stuff, and this he has a lot of genealogy stuff to especially when we get over to Seth, because Seth's line is where you're going to be able to follow the line up to Jesus. I've tried to write this down from Adam and Eve to Jesus, but I got lost in somewhere along the way. Maybe one day I will pick that back up, but for now, I'm just happy just to be reading the Bible. So we're picking up back in on verse 16. So we're going to read verse 16 through 24. Then Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. He built a city and called it the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Arad, and Arad begat Mahulalel. Again, if I butcher these, I do apologize. And Mahale begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. Then Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of one was Ada, and the name of the second was Zillah. And Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the harp and flute. And as for Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Then Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. Wives of Lamech, listen to my speech. For I have killed a man from wounding me, even a young man for hurting me. If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, Lamech 77-fold. So here you got the beginning of Cain's genealogy. And you'll see a difference between Cain's genealogy and then when we get to Seth's genealogy. So verse 16, Cain's departure from God's presence was both physical and spiritual. John 1, 3 through 10. I'm sorry, John 1, 3 and then John 10. Nod is not mentioned again in the Bible. Nod means wandering. Nod could possibly be any place Cain went. Cain departed to live east of Eden identifies him with other sinners who moved east. 17 through 18. Parallel tracks of Adam and Cain's lives continue with Cain knew his wife. In spite of his sin, Cain still fulfilled God's command to be fruitful and multiply. Genesis 1:28. Adam and Cain, they both sinned. They were both banished. They were both under God's judgment. Or they were both punished under God's judgment. And then they both moved eastward. So like Adam moved eastward out of Eden, and then now Cain is moving eastward from Eden, from where they were settled. Cain's wife. Now this one bugged me for a really long time, just like with the why Cain's sacrifice wasn't accepted over Abel's. This was another thing that bothered me when I first started reading the Bible, like truly reading the Bible, is Cain's wife. Okay, so all of a sudden, we're reading along, it's going smoothly, then all of a sudden, Cain marries this woman. So where did this woman come from? It wasn't taken into account that it could have possibly have been a family member, because back then, people marrying their mothers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, that wasn't taboo yet, because you got to remember God's filling the earth. So you wouldn't have any of the birth defects or anything like that you would have if that would happen in today's age. I don't think it's until Exodus that he puts that law. Either Exodus or trying to think, hang on. Abraham, one of those two, I do believe is where he starts bringing, he puts that law forth, and that, you should only marry outside of your family. So, Cain's wife is suggested to be a relative, daughter, niece, aunt, cousin. Because we got to remember that God has not said that it was sinful to marry relatives yet. He is still filling the earth. So, Cain's genealogy in verses 17 through 24 has similarities with Seth's genealogy. Genesis chapter 5, verses 3 through 32. Example, Enoch, Lamech, Methuselah, I think I got that name right. Methuselah, and then Cain and Kenan. The seventh member of both genealogies, Cain's line Lamech, and then Seth's line Enoch, uh, given special emphasis, and both conclude with a person who has three named sons. Notable differences: Cain's line are workers, craftsmen, the herders, musicians, metal workers, whereas Seth's genealogy, they have longer lives, and then it omits any occupational details and wives. Verse 19, Lamech, Cain's seventh son, Cain's seventh son, had three sons who made crucial contributions to human culture. His first wife, Ada, had Jabal and Jubal. Jabal being the father of shepherds or herdsmen. So basically, he's taken. He advanced the nomadic herdsmen from where Abel was just a sheep tender or a goat tender. He actually made it better. He advanced in that field. Jubal, father of musicians, advanced the musical arts, creating two of the most important musical instruments in the ancient world: harp and then the flute or reed pipe. Then with his wife Zillah, Tubal Cain is the father of metalworkers, so he advanced metalworking, creating tools or proving crucial for working tools. So he advanced in metalworking for all the different tools that we use. Actually, I think all the different tools we even use today, like the hammer. By taking two wives, Lamech is the first polygamist. Violation of God's intent for marriage. Genesis 2:22 and then Mark 10-8. So picking up all my notes on verse 23, because we already went through verses 20 through 22 is basically what I've already said about the three sons. Jabal being a herdsman, he advanced the career of ranching, I guess you could say. Jubal advanced the musical arts, and then Tubal Cain advanced the metalworking trade. So in verse 23, Lamech's speech is the longest so far. Represents a dark climax of the Cainite genealogy. His retaliation against a man that wounded him and a young man for hurting him, murder, goes far beyond the biblical limits. Exodus 21:23-25. And he boasts. So not only does he kill these people out of vengeance, he brings his wives out and he boasts about it like no big deal. So this is foreshadows the violence leading up to Noah and the flood, Genesis 6-11. So verse 24, using twisted logic and taking it upon himself. So God didn't say that Lamech would be avenged 77-fold. Lamech just took it upon himself just because God did tell Cain that he would be avenged. If anybody killed him, he would be avenged sevenfold. So Lamech just took it upon himself because he was a relative of Cain, that he would be avenged 77-fold. God didn't say anything about that. So Lamech suggests that God would provide him greater protection than he did Cain, since Lamech killed double the number of men. The line of Cain is full of sin, with every generation getting worse and worse than the last. And again, it goes back to, what was it? People taking it upon themselves to uh, to take. They're taking it upon. Lamech was basically taking it upon himself and putting words, I guess, technically in God's mouth, because God never said that. So picking up in verse 25, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and he named him Seth. For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. As for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. So verse 25, Seth is in Hebrew is Sheth, which means appointed. When appointed in Hebrew means Shath. Eve once again recognized God as the source of her child. Expectation that Seth would be more righteous than Cain is evident by Eve's statement that God gave him to replace Abel. Jesus is traced through Seth's line, Luke 3:38. Verse 26, Seth's son Enosh, like Adam, means humanity. Enosh's birth marks a new and brighter beginning for mankind, as men now began to call on the name of the Lord, God's personal name, Yahweh, Exodus 3:15 and Exodus 6:3. During the time of sin amongst Seth's line, people began to call on God, Yahweh. So during all this sinful stuff that Cain's, and I watched a YouTube video, or not YouTube video, a documentary, and it was on the flood. I'll have to look it up and see what the name of that documentary is for the next video. But so you have Cain's line, and then you have Seth's line. So you have Seth's line. So when Enosh was born, and I'm not sure if Enosh was his firstborn or not. It's just the first name of Seth's children that is named. So they started calling on God. So it's saying that the way this video was putting it is that because they started calling on God by his personal name Yahweh, they were more of the righteous. And then of course then you have Cain's line. He was doing whatever they want, whenever they wanted, and didn't care what was going on. And then eventually, because there was only so many people on the earth, you have them mingling, marrying cousins and brothers and sisters and whatnot. So you have Seth's line and Cain's line is starting to meld into each other. And then you have all this sin going on. Hence the reason why we got the flood, which we're going to get in the flood. Get to the flood account, I think in chapter 7. So we still got a couple more chapters before we get to the flood account. I like the flood account. It's just, I like the, I don't want to say magic, but I mean, I guess God did do a little bit of magic in there whenever it's because Noah didn't have to go searching for the animals. They just came to him. He didn't, and then, of course, when they went into the ark, God closed the door for them. Anyways, I just, and then I find it fascinating that we still see evidence of one global flood, even to this day, even in the Grand Canyon and stuff like that. I just think it's amazing. Anyway, so next week I'm going to pick up on chapter 5. I hope y'all have a great weekend. I got a couple of shows to do. Hopefully I can sell my book. If y'all haven't gotten a copy, Someone to Believe In, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, ChristianBooks.com, Walmart, Target. So pick one, I'll copy up. You won't regret it. If you like seeing me flub up on these videos, hit the like and subscribe button. And I don't have a set day that I do these videos. I just do them when I sit down to do them. I'm kind of scatterbrained that way. Um, I do try to do them weekly. I just don't have a set day of the week that I do them. So I just, when I find time to do them during the week, that's where I sit down. Or I actually find it quiet enough for me to do them. That's when I do them. Not and then of course you'll hear my dogs in the background every once in a while.